the Ladies Tale podcast. I'm so excited to put another Ladies Tale in the can. That sounds so weird. Like if you, because we were just talking about idioms and other I was about to say in other conjunctions. No, no conjugations here. No other conjunctions.
In the can?
Yes, that's what I was about to say. In the can. So it feels like
I had to get up from my other meetings to be like, in the can?
Did you hit mute?
I did.
Okay, that's what's important. Jade is off screen right now. Because she has a meeting. She looks absolutely adorable.
In the can, though. Come on, like in the pipe, on the pipeline, on the roster. Come on. Come on.
So I started this
wait for a living. Come on.
Oh, yeah, that is true. I'd like to be like, excuse me, let me do this again. Welcome to the Ladies Tale podcast. I'm so happy to put another one on the roster. Although she messed up my entire in the can idiom thing here.
And that's Winona.
And that
disembodied voice Jade.
Disembodied voice Jade. She's leaving though. So just don't get used to hearing it.
You might hear it some more because I don't know.
Oh, I'm not having a good day. So Jade may be popping in and be like, and the question she meant was.
Right. All right. So we wrote books.
We did.
Like
that's with pop poetry. And for once, I don't have to explain why we is not just me.
Yes. And I thought the voice was bad with other life lessons. And I thought being grown up was easy. If only I would be a memorize first. Food and coffee. What is web series? Or will you get your audiobooks?
That's gotta look so weird because you hear a voice and the person's like, Frozen!
Wait for Zoom to catch up. There you go.
Sir. So occasionally we have wise things to say. We put them on the page, but you're not here to hear anything else about me. Everything your ladies are up to
at www.andithoughladies.com. But y'all aren't here to hear the disembodied voice of Jade.
You're here to hear from our wonderful guest. Wonderful guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nush Lewis. That's my stage name. I am a musician, a composer, a music educator, and an entrepreneur from Mumbai, India. I am also a harpist, which falls under the umbrella of being a musician. And I sometimes like to describe myself as a tree, which is weird, but I really sometimes do feel like I'm a tree. It's a thing.
I want to say something so bad.
Okay, so
I'm going to say it.
I have to ask the question. Why are you a tree?
I don't know. I always had this thing with like every time, like, I don't know. It's some sort of, I still haven't figured out why I sometimes feel like a tree. But I think it's got to do with this constant like branching, like having multiple branches and leaves, because I don't describe myself as just a musician. I'm not just a musician. I'm a musician plus this, plus this, plus this. And also I feel like I was forced to become a lot of those plus points because of just the industry over here. So, and just also me as a person, like I know I'm funny, but I also like to be by myself. I'm an extrovert, but I'm also, you know what I mean? It's just like, I feel like I have so many parts to myself that like, it depends which branch you hold on to. Maybe, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense to me.
One more question and Jade has to disappear. Where is over here? And I love that you're a tree. Like, that's amazing.
Thank you.
So where are you from?
So I'm actually one of these like third culture children, actually. I was born and raised in the Middle East, in Kuwait. And then I did all my schooling through that time. I then moved to the UAE for about a year or so, and then finished my schooling over there. Then moved to Bangalore in India to do my undergraduate studies. After that, I moved to another city in India called Chennai, where I studied music. I did 1 year of a performance course, which is where I learned the harp. And then I moved to Bombay. And I've been in Bombay ever since. I want to say it's going to be nearly 12 years now since I moved to this city. And I absolutely love it. And so basically I'm one of those kids that moved a lot, but my roots are from the south of India, from a place in a state called Karnataka called Mangalore. That's where my roots are from. But yeah, I've been around a bit, so yeah.
Oh, definitely. Well, see, now I can see why you would say you were a tree, because you have roots in many places. So of
Yeah.
course, it takes a massive root network for a tree to grow. Oh my goodness, my nerd is showing. Okay, tuck that back in.
I love it. I love it. No.
Honestly, when you said you were a tree, the first thing I was going to be like, well, maybe you were Norwegian in a former life, because you know that the tree of the world in Norway's mythology not important.
The tree of life.
Yes.
You'd not believe, but I have the tree of life tattooed on my back.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
I did something right today. Okay, I'm sorry. That was almost a connection there. I feel like I did something right today.
Absolutely.
And no, I feel bad that I sang now with a musician in the room. I'm so sorry. That was
No, it's fine. Everyone can sing. Everyone can sing, and everyone should sing. It's fine.
So, what made you decide out of all of the instruments to be a harpist?
Well, very honestly, it's not something that I, as a child woke up and said, Mom, I want to learn the harp, because uh, we didn't grow up around such instruments. Also for us, that because we were living outside India, culturally for us, yes, we were listening to a lot of Indian music, because you want to stay close to your roots. You're listening to Indian music. Typically, a lot of Bollywood music is what you're listening to, because you're waiting for like the next Bollywood film to come out. And then, of course, we were also listening to a lot of American pop, British pop. My parents were huge Beatles fans and Elvis Presley fans, so we grew up listening to a lot of that as well. Um, so the harp was never in my sight at all till I moved to Chennai to study music. And my music theory teacher, who is American, uh, is a harpist, and they had, obviously, because she was in Chennai and everything, they had got a harp for her. And I remember seeing her perform it at one of the school programs or something like that, and just being very enamored by what I saw. Because if you've never seen a harp before, the first time you look at it, it's overwhelming. It's very like, it's huge. It looks like it has like a million strings, and you're trying to figure out like, why are there pedals? What does everything do? So I think it was out of curiosity that I went to her and I asked her like if I could just try it out, and was like, oh, let's do a trial class and see. And I remember we finished the trial class, and she said, uh, would I see you next week? Like, do you want to practice something? And I was just like, yeah, okay. And for the situation that I was in at that time, circumstances was such that the vocal program that I'd actually gone to music school for, was as a vocal major, wasn't really panning out the way I wanted it to. So I was already a little like unhappy, and we were about 2 weeks into like school, I think, by then. And I anyways picked up the harp as like a side instrument for me to just learn, just out of curiosity. But one class led to another, when I also realized I was practicing the harp more than my vocals. I think I found some sort of comfort, some sort of just because I wasn't getting what I wanted out of the vocal program, but I was getting that out of the harp, just learning the harp on the side. That's when I was just, okay, life has given you lemons, just make lemonade at this point. So then I kind of spoke to my harp teacher and asked her if I could change majors, and she was very supportive. And then we went to the administration and like changed my major and everything. And the rest is history. I've been like learning the harp. I learned the harp formally for that 1 year, which was from 2009 to 2010, and then finished music school, which was my 1 year program, moved to Bombay, and just started writing like after that. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I love music, and let me say I will never ever pick up another musical instrument. Although I just asked for a guitar, which is weird. But I'll never pick up another musical instrument again. But I also know that composing and playing are two different beasts in a whole.
Mhm.
And let me just say, because you said you did musical theory, good God, lady. How
Yeah, I mean, that was a part of our
musical
subject.
theory class?
it was a compulsory class. You had to take music theory. Otherwise, like, I mean, you had to do it. It was just a part of like the course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had your main instrument and whichever that instrument was. And then you had like music theory, music history, music appreciation, like those were like choir, those were all things that you
I
had to do.
love music history and I love music appreciation. I hated musical theory. So first of all, I just want to know how you got through. And then I also want to know, secondly, about composition. What goes into you composing a song? What do you think about?
Okay, I'm going to answer your first question about music theory. Music theory wasn't my easiest subject as well. Like, it's not something that came to me naturally, and that's also because I am mildly dyslexic. So, like, certain things like numbers, and it is very mathematical. Anyways, music theory is very mathematical. So, and I also feel like sometimes I wasn't taught it the right way. So there, I did have a hard time with music theory, but like I got through. Like I did okay. It's interesting because when I then got into like music education and I started teaching, the moment I started teaching theory, I understood it better. It was almost like a, reaffirming and like reassuring of like everything that I had learned before, like just reinstating everything. But because I had to break down concepts to children, I learned it better. And I understood it better because I suddenly had to take a concept and break it down. So I was to be able to explain it to a child. And that, I think, just made music theory a little more easier for me to understand. Um, so yeah, it's not the most it wasn't fun for me when I was in music school, but now I do enjoy it. Like if someone is talking about music theory, I can sort of visualize a few things. And yeah, but I'm still not as good as some people. There are some people who are phenomenal at music theory. I'm not. To get to your next question about composition and what goes into it, for me as a writer, very honestly, I'm a very mood writer. I am not one of those people who can sit every day and like churn out something till they hit like, something really good. And I think that's purely because I'm a very restless person. So I cannot like allocate a certain amount of time in a day where I'm just sitting and I'm like writing or something like that. I also get very like if I'm not able to write something properly and I'm just forcing myself to sit there, I get very irritated with myself. I feel like I'm failing at something, all of that. So for me, I'm a mood based writer. Like if I feel it, then I will do it. There are a lot of times, like even if I'm thinking like lyrically, something comes to my mind in the night, I'll just get up quickly, like record a voice note, or like I'll type it on my notes on my phone and keep it just so that like I remember it later. So yeah, so sometimes there are songs of mine which don't get completed for about a year or so because I'm just sitting with it, and it all depends on like whether I'm feeling it, and if I try it out and be like, oh, okay, I could write this. Yeah, so I'm a slow writer, which is also why I feel my body of work is also a certain amount as compared to some of my friends who can just like churn out music like every year, like a good amount of music. So um, for me, that's just my process, and I think I've made my peace with it. So uh, I like it.
I completely understand. That sounds amazing. I just wanted to say that first of all, I love the fact that you're like you gave yourself permission to sit with it for like a year. I feel like that's amazing.
I think it's also laziness. Like I don't know if it's like I give you the permission. I'm just lazy. I'm just like I don't want to do it.
No. I understand that. Like I'm right now. Well, I don't understand it in music, but right now I am sitting with a novel, just looking at it, and every time I open it up, I'm like, I'm ready, and then I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah,
but I know
exactly.
once I want to do it, it's like 5 or 6 days and it's over, and like it's like everything. But like
Yeah.
it's just like feeling it to do it. Like,
Yeah, procrastination is so real, but
it's
I
part of the
also
process.
it's absolutely a part of the process. In fact, somewhere I read that like people procrastinate because you're constantly looking for perfection, which is not a good thing. But I think that's also like we're so afraid to kind of see something flawed, you know? In our eyes, we're so afraid to see something like that we are not happy with. Which is why I admire my friends who can write something every day, and it may not be the perfect thing, but they're just like, oh, I'm writing it out. It's almost like purging. They're just like, I'm getting it out of the way till I hit that one, hook that is amazing and that I know will like work with a song or whatever that is. And that's a brilliant process, but it's just that it's not mine. So
No. Okay, so I've done it both ways for writing on my end, and I want to say, yeah, they both work, but inspiration. And I also read an article on something in neuroscience. It was from way back, but anyway, they were saying that procrastination is kind of like your brain just working on it in the background until it goes click. That's it.
100%,
And then
100%.
you're just ready. But like,
Yes.
so like, it made me feel not guilty. Now, granted, that article was written almost 20 some years ago. It might have been 30. So maybe the science is wrong now, but I went looking for something positive about procrastination. And I found it buried in some neuroscience thing that was way.
I hear you. No, absolutely. Because I feel like sometimes, like you said, it's always going on in your head. That doesn't mean you're not working. Yes, you are. If your mind is on it and you're constantly being like, I don't care, even if I'm sitting and watching TV, but it's on my mind and I'm constantly thinking about it, and I'm probably Googling something while the TV is on, like I'm still working on it, it just has to be that one moment where I'm like, yes, that's it. That's what we're supposed to do. And that's not wasting time, or that's not like, I think procrastination has just got bad rep at this point.
We're in a society that's just like, get things done.
Yeah.
And the quicker the better. That's perfect. Awesomeness. Thank you. No, that's not how that works.
Absolutely not. It's not how it should work. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your music, because that's what we're here to talk about. And you're talking about music with someone who has a bad vocal chorus and has failed multiple musical instrument classes. That's not true. I passed every last one of them.
That's amazing.
But anyway, so when you're playing, like, I know sometimes like when I'm singing, I'm just like, it feels like the world is in perfect harmony and wonderful. So how does it feel when you're playing, and when you look out at your audience and see the response? Does that feedback and give you like a better performance, or do you feel like it's just like you're in the world by yourself and I'm playing and performing for me?
I think there are two ways of like looking at it. There was a time where I used to, because sometimes for me, looking at the audience, at least maybe 4 or 5 years ago, looking at the audience used to like be intimidating for me. So a lot of times, like if I was playing and singing, I would just close my eyes, and then I would be playing for myself, and I would be like doing that for myself, which was fine, and that was great, and it worked for me back then. And then slowly, I remember I was sitting in a master class with this phenomenal musician, and it's sad because this was, I forgot his full name. I mean, I forgot his name, but this was James Taylor's brother. And he came to India along with the Berklee School of Music to do like a workshop. And the workshop was on like just, you as a performer. And it's really sad that I've forgotten his name, but it is James Taylor's brother. And he asked, like, we were all sitting in this class, and he asked everybody for, does anybody have a song that they want to come and play? And normally I would never do this, but I found myself raising my hand. I was like, I have a song to play. And he was just like, cool, why don't you come up and play it? And there was just a keyboard, and I played this song of mine and finished it. And he was just like, okay, cool, that sounds nice, but why don't you do it again? This time, just kind of look at a couple of us. He's like, we want to be a part of your little world that you're singing about, because the world you're singing about sounds beautiful, and we want to come on this journey with you. Take us along. Let's not be on the outside looking in. And I was then forced, and he kept saying, like, look at us, look at me, look at me. And it was uncomfortable initially, having to make a bit of that eye contact, but I realized what it did was also kind of seeing the few people who were in the room at that day when I was looking at them and singing, is that they responded in some form. There was a connect that was made. And I think after that, like now I kind of make a conscious effort with the audience, like wherever that audience is to look at a few people, whether it is my best friend who has come into the room, or like, you know, a new face that is seeing me perform for the first time. I think also now it's also with experience and like being like playing on stage for that long, that I'm now a little more comfortable with like a bit of that interaction with the audience. So I think now it's I do interact a bit with the audience and try to get them to come along on this like journey with me, and that made a huge difference. I used to be that person who was performing only for myself, and I think there are some songs from my repertoire which I do like only for myself, and you can almost like see it's just like the zone that I go into, and I play the song. And but still, what is interesting is that you will have people in the audience after the show who will come up to you and be like, you know, the song that you did, da, 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 which will be that song which I know I'm mentally just doing it for myself, and they're like, oh man, we felt that, you know. So I think there are two ways of doing it. It's also kind of, if you're delivering a song that comes from a very sort of uh, honest place, then it just cuts through all the noise and you will reach to anybody. So that's kind of, these are things though that I've learned over the past like 10 years of making many mistakes on stage, and like, you know, totally fumbling up and all of that. So yeah, now I try and really, I love involving the crowd in my performance in some shape or form. Yeah.
Okay, completely different, like hop. I'm not even gonna go with this as a segue because it's not a segue. We don't do this on that show. So we're just gonna jump into a whole new subject, okay? So you seem to be in a unique position in your country where there is only 4 harpists, but you have albums, not albums. How has this unique position affected your career, your composition? What's it like?
I think it's got its good side and it's got its bad, of course. The good side of it is that you're playing a unique instrument that like is not native to our country at all. And it's really weird because the few Western instruments that did become popular in India were, of course, like the piano, the guitar, the bass, drums. Like those are Western instruments that became very popular in India. The harp just never came here for some odd reason. We do have Indian forms of the harp, which are not played the way a Western harp is played. But yes, it is sort of like an Indian harp, I guess. Those are like Indian harps. That it is a good, like I said, the plus side is you're playing a unique instrument, so people want to come and see it, etc., etc., etc. That is and the same reason is also the drawback to it, right? Because the community is barely existent, and the few of us who do play, we barely meet. Like it's like we've got to be lucky if we like bump into each other somewhere or that sort of thing. For me, being a singer-songwriter on the harp was definitely the USP that I ran with when I first started. Like when I came onto the music industry here in Bombay, was I was the only singer-songwriter that played the harp and sang. So that was the USP that I did, and that's, I think, what gave me my footing in the industry. The bad side of it would be the fact that I think I had a huge identity crisis with it, because I think I identified myself only as a harpist and not as a just an overall musician that actually sang before, you know. And in fact, very recently I did a post about this on my social media, talking about like how I forgot that I was a singer first before I could play anything. Like I sang from the time I was a little girl with my parents and my sister, but I got so swallowed into this identity of being a harpist in India and being like a performing harpist and all of that. And that was like, oh, like that took a real toll like on me. And it took maybe, I would say probably took about 4 years for me to realize that that was not what I should have done. It worked for me professionally to kind of make my standing in the industry over here and say that I was one of the few harpists here who did what I did. But for me personally, as a musician, I think it did like sort of move the other way. So yeah, I have a very interesting relationship, I think now, not only with my harp, but also like with just my music in general and like how I work about it. But it's so much more positive, I feel today. Yeah.
Um, so can you tell us a bit about your journey to become a actual artist that has albums? What does it
Um,
take? What does it take to succeed is pretty much what I'm asking. I'm just trying to do it politely.
oh God. So I uh, through so basically my journey with wanting to get into music professionally started when I was doing my undergraduate studies in Bangalore, because I joined the college choir and we had an amazing college choir. We were one of the few choirs in India that was doing original music, and for me that's where it started. Was we were not just a choir that was doing covers, but we had a choir conductor who loved to compose music. So I remember just being inspired by that, but it was something that I thought I wouldn't be able to do on my own. And then I remember we had this one choir camp that happened. Um, and our choir conductor told us, he gave us like an exercise to do where he made all of us, he put us into groups, and he gave us an hour to write a song. And none of us had experience writing a song, maybe just a few from the choir, and we were a big choir, we were about like 50 to 60 students or something like that. And out of those 50, 60, maybe like five had some experience in writing music. The rest of us didn't. We just were there because we like to sing. There was no other agenda for us. uh, but I remember in that 1 hour that we were all together, we all sat and like, each group came up with a song. Like we had at least a verse, like two verses, a chorus, and if we were lucky we wrote a bridge. But yeah, like so. And I remember at the end of that 1 hour we all had to perform our little song that we wrote, which we did, which is hilarious. And at the end of it, my choir conductor stood up and said, I want you all to realize that if you actually put your mind to something, you can do it. Now, I was always a kid that used to write poetry anyways. Like I always wrote free verses and those kind of things. Since I was quite young when I used to do it. It was just something that I did. And I don't think anyone else like thought of it seriously. I mean, my parents knew that I wrote, but it was just like, they were like, whatever, she's a child, she's writing some little poems on her own. So I knew I had like a streak of like creative writing somewhere. And after I finished with music school, I mean, in music school itself, like I knew I wanted to like sit and write. So when I was done and I moved to Bombay, the idea was to become a singer-songwriter. And I was always like a huge fan of, I think one of the earliest singer-songwriters that I was a huge fan of was Alanis Morissette. And I'm talking like I was maybe about 6 or 7, and my cousin had a cassette that she used to play. It was an Alanis Morissette cassette, and we used to all like just absolutely like enjoy like singing along with it. So I knew that I wanted to kind of write my own stuff. Um, it's and I think that was also that was a time where I actually I because I had just moved to Bombay, I had a bit of time on my hands, and I kind of because I didn't have a job as such or whatever, I was living with my grandmom, so I was able to sort of sit and write something. Um, but yeah, I think it all started with me being just being able to write free verses. So then after that choir camp where I realized that I could attach melodies to some of these free verses and then make them songs, it was almost like this like light bulb moment. I was like, hey, I think I can do this, like let's try it out. And of course, using tools that I learned from like music school, that always helped with like, I think I used a lot of it in my first album that I put out, my EP rather, that I put out. Uh, I used a lot of those tools to kind of like write. Now that I use the tools, I know how to break them. I know how to break those rules. So though that's what I kind of run with now. It's kind of like I know how to break the rules, so I just break them and I write that way. So uh, it is an evolution, though. I think that entire process of like how I became a songwriter to my process of songwriting today and how I even stylistically write today is, I think over the 10 years has been like a massive like change, and it should. So
It should. I mean, we continue to grow ourselves, so of course, we're
Yeah.
going to make a massive change. And
Yeah.
considering that you control a lot of your music, you can do said changing. What is Offset, Ed?
Okay, so Offset Education is a music education property that I started in 2017. It started as, I think it was literally, it was a product of my producer and I sitting and just kind of like bitching out our entire like industry. We were just like, there are so many things that are wrong with it. There are so many like, I was also working with like a music school that time, so I kind of was seeing what was happening on the education front of it. And I was very bothered by the fact that if I ever attended a workshop at like one of the music schools or something that was organized by somebody, I was not seeing a music workshop that was something that either I was could sink my teeth into and come out of that workshop and be like, I learned something new, or I would come out of the workshop and be like, I'm very intimidated. I can never do what those people do, and it's great that they do what they do, or whatever. Um, in the sense to say that those were workshops that were not really inspiring, and in this little rant that I was having with my producer, and we were kind of talking about it, and he is himself very sort of educator based, kind of, we are on the same wavelength in that sense. It came up as a thing of like, somebody needs to do this, somebody needs to put together better workshops and just better curated things. And I think one of us said, maybe we should do it. What if we did it? You know? And I think it was like a joke first. And I wanted to kind of see like, what if we pick this up and run with it? And it, yeah, I think it's so blurry actually back then. I feel like like these are the few things I remember from the inception of how this came about. But I then went to Bangalore for some project and I happened to carry my harp. So we did like a small DIY gig at my parents' place. And I played that show, and I got to meet a lot of other musicians at that show who came for that gig to my house, and kind of spoke to them. And we were talking about, music education, and they were telling me the same thing. And that's when I stood back and I said, you know what? We need to create something. And what if we do it? And it just so happened that then I sat with my producer friend and we put together a sort of a model of what we wanted to do. And it's so interesting because we started off with like workshops and master classes that were curated by us. They were all process driven, like skill heavy sort of like workshops. Very skill based sort of stuff is what we were doing. We started with that, and as time kind of, and we've also been very blessed, I think, to work with some of the best in the industry here, who were so kind to give us their time and everything. So we actually put together some really good workshops. We partnered with the right venues here in Bombay, which are music venues and cultural venues. So I think that's where we got a lot of our street cred, was from them. And we just got a lot of goodwill, I think, from that. But today we are not just, as much as, yes, we are a music education property and we do still curate workshops and all of that, but we also we recently started a community choir, which is the most beautiful thing ever. Yeah, and that started post pandemic. I mean, not, I wouldn't want to say post pandemic, but basically when like all of Mumbai unlocked and we don't have any restrictions anymore. And I just kind of, I think the one thing that I missed during the 2 years was not singing with people, and having that community. So I put out a feeler saying, what if we start a community choir? Everybody responded saying, do it, we want to join. Okay, cool. So today Offset has workshops, we have a community choir, and we have a music education podcast called Out of the Box, which is India's first and only music education podcast. So it's very niche. It is directed towards music educators to listen to. We're currently running our season 1, and we have season 2 like coming out really soon. So it's sort of like we're building a little pod or a place where we can track the sort of like the progress or track the trends of music education in India, but at the same time, we are a part of the education system. We also, like, if schools need for us to put together like curriculums or whatever, I'm that person that they would probably reach out to, is to kind of to put together a program for them or something like that, and a choir. So it's it's been and next month we finish 5 years. So it's quite a journey that like, yeah, it's quite a journey. And it is hard. I'm not going to say it's not been a dream, like this dream ride or whatever. I'm lucky enough to have people that I speak to who have been sort of like either patrons of our workshops, or they have been artists who we have worked with. And it's so nice that every time we talk to them, they don't want me to shut it down, because there are times I'm very jaded. Okay, I'm very jaded and I'm just like, I don't know why I'm doing this. This is so hard, blah blah blah. And then they come in and they're just like, no, please don't, like, just don't lose sight of like what you're doing, and very grateful for that. So that is basically what offset education is right now. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Can you tell everyone where they can find out more information about offset education, listen to your music, and follow you on social media if they want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so for my music, you can find me on all streaming platforms. Just type Nush Lewis, NushLewis. You will find everything over there and everything that is to come there. On Instagram, you can follow me on at the rate Nush Lewis. Twitter, I'm at the rate Nush_Lewis. So you can find me there. I chat on both sides quite a bit. Offset education is at the rate offset live or at the rate offset ed. Depends where you are. But if you come onto my page itself, you can just, everything is in my bio. You can just like click it there, click on those handles over there. I also have an electronic project that I do, which is a collaboration with a friend of mine, Shadab Kadri, who's an ambient artist. And we have a project together, which is like an ambient and harp vocal electronic project called KM. So you can check out everything that I do there. Yeah, but that's about it.
Thank you so much for coming on today. I still can't believe we got to talk to one of the 4 harpists in India. It feels like I feel privileged.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to like talk and just meet new people from around the world. I'm always game. So thank you for having me.
Nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap us up over here. I am Nona, one of the And I Thought leads. I still don't know why I do this. Like, I introduced myself at the beginning, whatever. But just in case you didn't hear me, for the 3rd time and for my narcissist inside soul, I am Nona, and I'm part of the And I Thought Ladies. You can check out everything that your ladies are doing at www.andithoughladies.com. Go down to the middle of the page and you can see the 3 charities that we proudly support. We ask that you give them a little help, especially in these difficult times. And then remember that wisdom is all around you. So be open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona and the Missing Jade. Oh yeah, thanks for listening.